The man standing at the ATM doesn't look panicked. He looks confused. He presses the button again. The screen still reads Service unavailable. Behind him, a line of 7 people is forming, all of them holding their phones as if a different app might explain what is happening. It can't. The bank has just frozen withdrawals. It's a Tuesday morning in Buenos Aires, December 2001. By the weekend, the peso will have lost more than 70% of its value, and the bank accounts of millions of ordinary savers, people who did exactly what they were told, will be gone, not stolen, frozen, and then, quietly, made to disappear. If you think this is ancient history, look at Lebanon in 2019. Citizens standing outside banks they have used for decades, being told they cannot access their own money. Informal withdrawal limits, unofficial, unexplained, simply enforced. Look at Zimbabwe, where a monthly inflation rate of 79 billion% turned workers' salaries to vapor before they reached the end of a single week. Look at the Weimar Republic between 1921 and 1923, where prices doubled roughly every 4 days, and a wheelbarrow of paper marks bought a loaf of bread. These are not they are the pattern. Every major monetary system in history has eventually reached a breaking point. Some broke slowly, some broke overnight, and in every single case, the people who understood what was actually happening before it happened were separated from those who didn't buy one thing. Not luck, not connections, what they owned. Throughout every one of these collapses, something remarkable happens. Quietly, without a press release, certain people don't just survive the crash. They emerge on the other side with more than they went in with. Not because they were richer to begin with, because they owned a specific category of things that the collapse could not touch. There are 5 of them, and almost no one talks about all 5 together. Let's do that now. The first is the one people know. It's also the one most people misunderstand. Gold, when the Weimar hyperinflation was consuming the German mark, when the price of gold, denominated in marks, went from roughly 100 million marks per kilogram in early 1923 to 87 billion marks per kilogram by November of that same year. The gold itself did not change. Only the currency around it did. That is the mechanism people miss. Gold doesn't go up. The currency falls, and gold just stays where it always was. Its scarcity is geological, written into the physical composition of the planet, not determined by a committee, not subject to a vote, not adjustable by any central bank in any emergency. No institution on earth can print more of it. Silver works the same way, but offers something gold doesn't. Divisible. You can trade a silver coin for a week's worth of groceries. Gold is for storing large amounts of value in a small, portable form. Platinum holds industrial utility alongside its monetary function, and physical metals, bullion coins, LBM certified bars, allocated vault storage, carry no counterparty risk. Physical gold in your hand owes nothing to a bank. It is not a claim on something else. It is the thing itself. Gold ETFs and paper certificates may be convenient in normal markets, but a paper claim on gold in a deep collapse is worth exactly what the institution backing it is worth, which may be nothing. Now, here is the part they don't put in the brochure. The United States government, in April of 1933, signed Executive Order 6102, requiring virtually all privately held gold coins, bullion, and certificates to be surrendered to the Federal Reserve in exchange for $20.67 per troy ounce. Violation carried a penalty of up to $10,000 fine, equivalent to roughly $240,000 today, or 10 years in prison, or both. More than 2,600 metric tons of gold were collected. The government then immediately revalued gold to $35 per ounce, effectively devaluing the dollar by 58% in a single administrative stroke. It happened in communist China. It happened in the Soviet Union. It happened in the United Kingdom. Governments, when sufficiently threatened, confiscate what they need. If you hold physical metals, you must also think clearly about jurisdiction, discretion, and secure storage. Gold has survived every financial system in history. Whether it survives yours depends on how carefully you hold it. The second asset requires you to forget everything the financial industry has taught you about what a portfolio looks like. Land. Specifically, land that grows food. Picture any crisis in any era. The hierarchy of human need always reasserts itself with the same brutal clarity. Food first, water second. Water second. Everything else is negotiation. Productive agricultural land cannot be inflated away, cannot be frozen in a banking system, cannot default. It generates output regardless of what currency is in circulation. In every major collapse, food prices spike sharply, not because food becomes more valuable in some abstract sense, but because the currency measuring it becomes less so. The farmer with soil under his boots is one of the few people whose position actually improves in that environment. Farmland is finite. You cannot manufacture more of it. Water rights amplify its resilience. Access to a well, to a river, to functioning irrigation means independence from whatever municipal systems may be failing around you. Timberland adds another layer. Fuel, building materials, a renewable resource that replaces itself over decades. So why doesn't everyone own farmland? The honest answer is a combination of cost, and the psychological distance that most urban and suburban people feel from soil-based thinking. Farmland ties up capital in a way that a brokerage account does not. It requires management, either your own hands or trusted tenants. It is slow to buy and slower to sell. These are real constraints, not imaginary ones. And there is something darker. During the Soviet collectivization period, during Zimbabwe's land reform era, during various episodes of revolutionary upheaval throughout the 20th century, land was nationalized, redistributed, or simply seized. Property rights are only as strong as the institutions protecting them. In a severe enough collapse, those institutions may be the first to go. The smaller and more local the holding, the more practical. The more embedded in a functioning local community, the safer. A homestead plot you can farm yourself in a jurisdiction with durable property law is worth more in a real crisis than 1,000 acres of commodity farmland managed by strangers 3 time zones away. Now we arrive at the asset that no one can take from you. Not a bank, not a government, not even a natural disaster, as long as you survive it. Skill, human capital. In every major collapse on record, the Great Depression, the Weimar hyperinflation, the post-Soviet economic disintegration of the 1990s, the Yugoslav conflict, the data says the same thing. Higher-skilled workers survived economic downturns more intact than lower-skilled workers. But that analysis operates in normal economic conditions. What happens when the formal economy itself stops functioning? When there are no employers issuing paychecks in any denomination, then the hierarchy flips. Not the person with the degree. Not the person with the most savings. The person who can fix the generator. The person who can deliver the baby. The person who knows which plants are edible and which will kill you. During the Weimar hyperinflation, a documented barter economy emerged alongside the collapsing monetary system. A parallel exchange network built on goods and services where practical capability became the true unit of value. The mechanic, the carpenter, the midwife. To Pisam. These people were not unemployed during hyperinflation. They were in demand. They transacted in food, fuel, shelter, and protection. And they did it while everyone around them, clutching worthless paper, watched their savings disintegrate. The skills with the highest collapse resilience are the ones that solve immediate, acute problems. Medical knowledge, because access to healthcare collapses fast in crisis. Food cultivation and seed management, because communities need to eat, regardless of what the monetary system is doing. Mechanical repair, because vehicles and generators and water pumps continue to exist even when supply chains stop. Electrical and plumbing work, basic infrastructure does not cease to matter because a bank has failed. Carpentry, because shelter needs to be built and repaired with or without a functioning home improvement economy. Water sourcing and purification, because when municipal systems fail, this becomes a matter of life and death. The caveat is this. Skill requires health to exercise. It requires physical safety to deploy. In genuinely dangerous environments, a known skilled individual can become a target. That is not speculation. It is documented in conflict economies throughout history. Skill is your most portable, most permanent, most inflation-proof asset. But the person holding it must also survive to use it. The fourth asset is the newest one. It is also the most misunderstood, the most volatile in the short term, and the most philosophically significant thing on this list. Bitcoin in 2020. Venezuela ranked third globally in peer-to-peer cryptocurrency adoption. Not because Venezuelans had suddenly become technology enthusiasts, because as the bolivar evaporated, as PRP, exchange data showed a direct inverse relationship between the bolivar's USD value and crypto transaction volumes. Citizens needed a way to store and move value outside a financial system that had completely failed them. Argentina followed the same pattern. By late 2023, with official inflation approaching 143%, retail-sized stablecoin transactions were growing faster in Argentina than any other asset class. The underlying mechanism is straightforward. Bitcoin's supply is capped at 21 million coins, not bipolici, by mathematics. No institution can override it. No government can expand it. No emergency can justify printing more. It operates continuously across a decentralized network. No bank holidays, no wire freezes, no capital controls, no permission required. During a banking freeze, Bitcoin does not care. During a currency crisis, the network continues to function. And, crucially, an entire fortune can cross any border in the world as a memorized sequence of 12 words. No customs declaration. No physical weight. No checkpoint that can stop it. Self-custody through a hardware wallet removes counterparty risk entirely. This is the only form of Bitcoin ownership that matters in a collapse scenario. Leaving Bitcoin on an exchange is functionally identical to leaving cash in a bank. It is someone else's custody, subject to exactly the same freezes, hacks, and institutional failures you are trying to protect against. But here is what Bitcoin cannot do. It cannot function without electrical power and internet connectivity. Both of these may be disrupted or eliminated in a severe collapse. Its volatility in normal markets is extreme, which makes it a poor store of value in short-term crisis windows. Regulatory attacks are real, not hypothetical, and the self-custody process has a steep learning curve. Mismanage your seed phrase, and your wealth is gone, permanently, with no appeals process and no institution to call. Bitcoin is the most powerful portable wealth preservation tool in human history. It is also the one where mistakes are irreversible. The fifth asset is the oldest. In some ways, it is the most obvious. In practice, it is the most neglected. Things, physical, consumable, universally needed things. From April 1992 to February 1996, the city of Sarajevo was under continuous siege, the longest siege of a capital city in the history of modern warfare. Banking collapsed. Supply chains collapsed. Formal currency ceased to function as a practical medium of exchange. What replaced it? Cigarettes. According to documented records from the siege economy, a pack of Marlboro cigarettes on the Sarajevo market was worth the equivalent of several cans of humanitarian aid. Cartons traded at 100 German marks, roughly $70 at the time. People burned textbooks to roll cigarettes when paper ran short. The citizens of Sarajevo reportedly said their city would have surrendered had the cigarettes disappeared. This is not quirky history. This is a recurring economic pattern with ancient roots. In every pre-stabilization period following a major collapse, physical goods with universal demand and intrinsic utility function as the de facto currency before any formal replacement emerges. Non-perishable food with extended shelf life forms the foundation. Freeze-dried meals, rice, legumes, canned goods, salt. These items do not speculate. They do not require a functioning grid. They simply exist, and in a collapse, existence is what matters. Clean water and reliable filtration sit alongside food, non-negotiable. Prescription medications carry extraordinary barter value when pharmacies shut down. Fuel and propane power generators. Heirloom seeds represent the intersection of this category and the land category, a renewable agricultural resource that compounds over time. Alcohol and tobacco, while not necessities, have served consistently as high-value barter goods in every documented crisis economy. Their value is psychological, which makes it as real as any other kind. Hygiene and sanitation supplies prevent disease, historically the largest killer in post-collapse environments, not the collapse itself. The risks here are practical. A conspicuous stockpile in an unstable, lawless environment is a target. Discretion matters as much as preparation. Not every item scales to meaningful barter quantity. What you accumulate for personal use is different from what constitutes a tradable surplus, and the specific priorities of any stockpile must reflect actual local conditions, your supply chain vulnerabilities, your household medical needs, your storage capacity. Generic prepper lists are someone else's analysis. Yours needs to reflect your situation. Now step back for a moment. Look at all 5. Precious metals, agricultural land, practical skills, decentralized digital assets, physical supplies stockpiles. On the surface, they seem unrelated. One is geological, one is biological, one is cognitive, one is mathematical, one is material. But they share a single, invisible property that no other asset class possesses. They hold value independently of institutional trust. Every other asset in a standard financial portfolio, equities, bonds, bank deposits, pension funds, real estate investment trusts, derives its value from the functioning of the institutional architecture around it. Strip that architecture away, and the value evaporates. Not theoretically, historically, repeatedly. Gold does not need a bank to be gold. Farmland does not need a currency to grow food. A skilled carpenter does not need a functioning economy to build shelter. Bitcoin does not need a single point of permission to transfer wealth. A sack of rice does not need a financial system to feed a family. This is not a philosophy. This is a structural observation about what has actually preserved wealth across every economic collapse in recorded history. The people who came out the other side intact, not just surviving, but positioned, understood this distinction. Not because they were pessimists, because they were paying attention. Which brings me to the only question that actually matters at the end of all of this. Which of these 5 do you already hold? Not in theory in your actual life, right now. And which one have you been quietly aware of but kept putting off? That's the one to look at first. You don't have to do everything at once. One concrete step. Today. The system has never waited for anyone to be ready.